and welcome to Newfoundland and Labrador Studies 2205. This is Unit 4, Towards the Future. I'm Ms. Fleming, your instructor for this course, and this is Section 3, Lesson 2, on providing government services today. Throughout this course, we have discovered how government services can improve the standard of living for local residents. Throughout improvements in services in the 20th century, residents were offered family allowances, veterans allowances, old age pensions, and unemployment benefits. By the latter half of the century, some residents saw paved roads, electricity, modern plumbing, telephone, and internet access. Let's talk about the division between municipal, provincial, and federal services. There are three, main levels of government: a municipal, which is your town, city, or community; provincial, which is our province of Newfoundland and Labrador; and federal, the country of Canada. Services such as these enrich our lives, but they are also very costly. Now let's take a look at all of these together. First, municipal. So municipal government is responsible for things like garbage and recycling collection, snow clearing and firefighting, road and sidewalk maintenance. Now that means roads within your town. Traffic signs, signals, water treatment. Now I have an asterisk there because there is partnerships with provincial and federal government, but ultimately municipal government is responsible for most of the particulars. And then recreation facilities such as parks, playgrounds, rec centers, and community halls. The provincial government is responsible for hospitals, healthcare, the people who work in those facilities, education, the teachers in the buildings, textbooks, and resources, RNC policing, so if you're in a metro area, ferry services, provincial airstrips, provincial parks, because there's municipal parks, provincial and federal, highway construction, and libraries. Lastly is federal. The federal government is responsible for employment insurance, Canada Pension, RCMP portion of policing, justice, so the justice system itself, airport control, port control, food inspection, and public sites operations such as national museums, parks, and galleries. I put all of this specifically here because you might think it's a lot, because I find as we continue to grow and we continue to have access through online services and social media, that I've observed a lot of people not knowing exactly which government system is responsible for things when they take issue or when they see a need for improvement. It's important to know which government level is responsible for the different services that you are provided. So let's talk now about tax dollars and distribution of services. So government services that enrich and support our lives are paid for with the tax dollars collected from local residents and business owners. But the tremendous expense of maintaining multiple programs means governments cannot afford to deliver equal programs and services to all communities. See, often cities and towns with the largest populations receive the most services because they have the largest tax bases. And this leaves, like in rural areas, people pay less property taxes and other taxes than they do in urban areas, and that's related to the level of services that are provided where they live. So it's pretty cyclical. This means that municipal governments in small communities have relatively little money to spend on new roads, bridges, electricity lines, and other public services. It also means that it is less economical for provincial and federal governments to maintain schools, healthcare facilities, and other resources for scattered populations. Because you see, the lower the population density, the higher per capita cost of delivering those services. Additionally, retaining adequate numbers of teachers, doctors, nurses, and other professionals in these areas is another challenge. So let's take a look at this as a cause and effect flowchart. So the more people to draw taxes from that live in an area, the more money for government to provide services to that population, and therefore more variety in government services to be provided. Now let's talk about isolated communities. Administering hundreds of sparsely populated settlements dispersed over a wide area has been a recurring problem in Newfoundland and Labrador. We've talked about that a lot in this course. Different solutions have been attempted over the decades with varying degrees of success. The government-sponsored resettlement programs, like we mentioned in our last section, encouraged people to move to larger service centres. However, many people were disappointed by the economic and social circumstances of moving to a new area. Others were angry, feeling that resettlement was a betrayal of the culture and traditions of Newfoundland and Labrador. Many rural communities today are faced with the problem of maintaining tax bases that are large enough to afford necessary public service. Communities that can do so are called economically sustainable. Often small communities have to decide what services they can go without in order to afford essential ones. Neighboring municipalities may also decide to jointly pay for services that they can share, such as regional water systems or garbage collection. So, cooperation between various levels of government is also essential to remain economically sustainable. Cost sharing with provincial and federal governments is often necessary for services such as water treatment, solid waste management, road building, and public transit. Government officials may also introduce salary increases and other incentives to attract doctors, teachers, nurses, and other professionals to rural areas. Before we finish up, I want to give a shout out to St. Anne's School. This is in Southeast Bight. If you're a student who formerly went to St. Anne's School, I would like to say hello. If you're not familiar with where Southeast Bight is, there it is on the map. I've visited there before. It's been a while. I think it's time for me to go back and pay another visit. So now it's time to review. I'm going to ask you to please complete the activities in Brightspace, and I hope you have a great day.